everyone. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Meredith. Thank you so much for being here. Today we're going to be discussing the uglies. If you're a subscriber, which you all should be, then you're probably thinking, Meredith, you've already made a video about the uglies. Sort of, kind of. It is true that a few months ago I attempted to make a video about the uglies, the young adult novel. In fact, I had every intention of making a series about that novel series, very similarly to how I've done with the Hunger Games and what I'm doing right now with Twilight. My intention with that series was actually to use it as a vehicle to discuss appearance in our society in different ways, and more be making video essays about that, but using the book as a vehicle to discuss those topics. However, when I read the first book, I found that it actually was a horrible vehicle for that conversation, which makes the book an abject failure, given that that's what the book is said by the author to be about. Like, the author was attempting to talk about plastic surgery within our society. In my opinion, the way the book approached this conversation ended up commenting on all sorts of other things. But when it came to discussing the effect of physical appearance on our society and the value that we place on it and the conditioning of young people in general, but especially women, to believe that they have to be attractive in order to fit into society, driving a lot of us to risk our health to cosmetically alter our appearance in order to fit in better. Let's just say, without getting into spoilers, that it was very obvious to me that this book was written by a man. I'm truly impressed by how overt he could be trying to get the message across while completely missing it at the same time. Buddy was hitting a bullseye on a different target. He was shooting the wrong way on the field. Buddy kicked a field goal, but for the opposite team. Everybody was lined up in front of him, and he turned around and he kicked the ball backwards. It's almost inspiring how far he missed the point by. And to be fair, in my opinion, the movie did change some of the problems I had with the book in a way that I thought was positive. However, it's not a good movie. I don't think it was well written, and it doesn't solve everything that I had a problem with. But I do think it's better than the book, and so I will commend it for that. Overarchingly, if you've never heard of this story, in my opinion, you're not missing anything. If you're curious, the movie's on Netflix. If you have an account, it might be kind of fun to watch with your friends, play a drinking game, joke about it a little bit. It's a little cringy, but it's not horrible. It's not the worst movie I've ever seen. It's not the best writing I've ever seen, certainly. If you don't have interest in it, don't let the FOMO drive you to actually watch it. I don't think it's nearly as damaging as the book was, is what I'm saying. In my opinion, the book was actively damaging and not only completely missed its point, but like I said, went backwards with it. Whereas I feel like the movie actually did make its point, just in a way that was very poorly written, in my humble opinion. Now, I am not the arbiter of taste, so take that with a grain of salt. 7 minutes into filming, and I don't think I've even told you guys what the premise of this is. I really just got off ranting about how much I hated the book. The Uglies is a young adult dystopian novel that takes place in a society where, upon turning 16 years old, everybody within the society gets extensive plastic surgery to turn them into what is called a pretty. Think if the Gray Blob episode from Fairly Odd Parents was making everybody attractive instead of turning them all into gray blobs. And that's basically what this book is. Except I actually think that episode of Fairly Odd Parents is significantly better at getting its point across. I digress. So with that, we are going to be diving into spoilers. So if you don't want the movie or the book spoiled for you, now is the time to say goodbye. We'll miss you. All right, now that we've gotten rid of the losers, here's the thing about the conversation surrounding plastic surgery. A lot of people act like this conversation is very nuanced. In my opinion, the conversation surrounding plastic surgery and whether or not it's like good to get plastic surgery isn't nearly as nuanced as people say it is. In my opinion, we can criticize the society that conditions people to believe that appearance is everything and sets really strict boundaries as to what is considered attractive, and then pressures everybody to fit into those standards, while simultaneously not judging the individuals who then choose to change their appearance in order to fit into that society. And that's really all there is to it, in my opinion. Shaming one individual for getting plastic surgery is not going to fix the deep-seated societal issues that we have. There is a lot more work to be done there. It's kind of a lose-lose situation. You either accept that you don't fit into society's conventions as to what is considered attractive, or you get surgery in order to do that and then are shamed for doing so. Society claims that they want a naturally beautiful woman, but then they set the standards for what a naturally beautiful woman looks like to be so high that no women naturally fit those standards. So surely in a book that discusses plastic surgery and its effects on society, these topics are going to be covered. That is incorrect. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. I'm going to talk about the book first, what I didn't like about it, and then what I felt like the movie did that made it a little bit better, but not all the way better. So my main issue with the book is that there's a major plot twist somewhere in the middle, where we find out that the pretty surgery does not only change your outward appearance, it also deposits these lesions into your brain that make you stupid, docile, and just interested in partying. So our main character, Tally, is really looking forward to becoming a pretty. She's really excited to get the pretty surgery. She's excited to be beautiful. She's excited to be welcomed into the pretty society through a chain of events that seriously do not matter and actually don't make any sense. She ends up at this place called The Smoke, which is like a rebel group of people who run away from the city before they get the pretty surgery. So they are all still uglies. By the way, they call people uglies before they get the pretty surgery. So the whole book, our main character has been selling becoming this beautiful, attractive woman as this incredible thing, this thing she really wants to do. She's heartbroken when she can't. And the only thing that makes her not want the surgery is finding out that it's going to make her stupid, docile, and just want to party and not have any like deeper thoughts or emotions or feelings. Do you see the problem with what I'm talking about? If you are not picking up what I'm putting down, these 3 traits are all stereotypes about beautiful women in American society. American society assumes that incredibly beautiful women are stupid, docile, and all they are interested in is partying and riding through life on their looks. So the whole book, this surgery is being painted to us as a good thing by the main character, and the thing that makes her discover that she does not want this surgery is not because of what it does to her outward appearance, but because of what being beautiful would do to her as a person. Fucking pardon? You see what I mean about like he kicked the field goal backwards? Like what the fuck are you talking about, Scott Westerfield? No, young ladies, you don't want to be beautiful because that would make you a stupid slut, as all beautiful women are. So you should stay ugly. I wish I was joking, you guys. It's almost as if without these lesions, without the personality changes, if you will, without the intelligence changes, this author would have zero issue with the idea of everybody getting surgery to completely alter their appearance upon the age of 16. So a book that supposedly, allegedly by the author is stated to combat misogyny and teach little girls to accept themselves in their own skin. The way he goes about doing that is truly one of the most misogynistic things that I've maybe ever read, ever. So you might be wondering, Meredith, how on earth could the movie have possibly made this better? Well, the lesions are still a plot twist in the middle of the movie, so that's still a part of the storyline. Unfortunately, I don't know that there is a way to adapt this story and keep it really at all similar to the book series without having that lesion plot twist. But not every book needs a movie adaptation. Maybe we should have just left it alone. They don't want you to like the pretties. They don't want you to think the pretties look good, so they make them all look kind of like creepy and weird. And then they hired a bunch of incredibly attractive actors to play all the uglies. Now, on the surface, one could look at this and say, why on earth are you casting such attractive actors to play people that you're calling ugly so often? But I actually think that this is a really smart choice if it was an intentional choice. I don't know that it was. By making the pretties really freaky looking and the uglies attractive to us as the viewer, I feel like it's the only point where they're actually making any commentary about the idea of extensive plastic surgery to make everyone beautiful. This is very real to what it would actually be like if everybody got plastic surgery. I was kind of hunching there for a while. Sorry, Mom. She doesn't like it when I hunch in my videos. Anyway, I appreciated that choice on the movie's front. The other 2 little things that they added that I thought really aided in this, making actual commentary on the plastic surgery itself. In the book, Tally in her mind finds all of the pretties to be incredibly attractive, and over time at the Smoke, regards in her mind about how she understands how everyone around her does not look perfect. However, she finds them attractive in their own special way. Whereas in the movie, we don't really get a ton of commentary from Joey about how she feels about the appearance of the people at the Smoke, except we get a little bit of her snooping on a shirtless David and experiencing sexual attraction maybe for the first time in her life. And honestly, I liked that. I liked that that was how they went about her kind of having some of these realizations, was just by emphasizing her attraction to David. At no point does she say out loud that David is an ugly. She never calls him ugly. In fact, she never calls anybody at the Smoke ugly. None of them ever call each other ugly. She refers to herself as ugly a few different times, but she does not direct this at anybody else. In the book, in her mind over time, she's like, I know that David's nose is too big, but I kind of like it on his face. And you're like, what? In the movie, she just looks at him and is like, damn, that is an attractive man. And I do feel like it's kind of a better way to do it. She was not actually attracted to the pretties. She was told she found them pretty. She's attracted to David. This teaches her something. I appreciate that as the viewer. I feel like that changes the message a little bit. So while the lesion plot point still exists, and while I still think that is damaging, I do think these other changes that they've made move the message of the story closer to what it seems the author originally intended of it. Or at least stated that he intended. Who knows what's in his mind and in his heart, because like I said, missed the goal by a lot, but that does not a good movie make. And I do have criticisms. My main criticism of this movie is that it's just a little bit poorly written, in my opinion. A lot of the dialogue is very cringe. A lot of the messaging is incredibly on the nose. I understand that it's a young adult novel, but I need more creators to understand, in general, if you are making content for high schoolers, you do not need to dumb it down. If your content is for elementary schoolers, you need to dumb it down. If the content's for middle schoolers, dumb it down just a little. If the content's for high schoolers, don't dumb it down at all. Teenagers are stupid in their own unique way, but not when it comes to things like theme and messaging. They're stupid in that they make poor decisions sometimes because they don't have the self-control that a fully grown adult with a fully developed brain does. But they are not dumb. Teenagers are in the process of grasping adult concepts as they go through their teen years, and they need to be introduced to those concepts in ways that challenge them in order to do that. I am so sick and tired of young adult work being like a spoon feed. If you're writing a young adult novel and or movie, you do not need to dumb it down. You do not need to spoon feed the message to the reader. In fact, it will take away from the experience for everyone, including your young adult viewers and readers, if you do that. Teenagers don't have self-control, but they are not intellectually stupid. That is the point I'm trying to make. So my main criticism for this movie is just that it treated the viewer like they were an idiot. Subtlety? Never heard of her. Maybe that's not fair. I do think the whole like pretties looking kind of freaky thing is sort of a subtle way to drive some of this message, but it takes away from a little bit of the genius of that when you make the dialogue as overt and clunky and awkward and fabricated. And unfortunately, I actually think the book does a lot better a job at not doing this. And I'm pretty sure I had the criticism that the book was a little bit on the nose. So it's kind of crazy that I think the movie was more so, but that just tells you how bad it actually was. In fact, there's a specific scene that I ended up going back through and hunting through my copy of the book to find, because the scene in the movie was so awkward, but the scene in the book just doesn't feel that horrible and on the nose. And it's the scene where early in the book, Tally's friend and somewhat love interest at this point in the story gets turned into a pretty, and Tally doesn't get turned into a pretty until like 3 months later, and they were supposed to meet up, but he doesn't show up to the meeting, so she sneaks into New Pretty Town to meet up with him. In the book, their exchange is not as positive as Tally wants it to be, and it does hurt her feelings, similar to how it happens in the movie, but more just because Paris isn't as excited to see her as she thought he would be, but he's not actively upset to see her either, and his only real concern is that he's afraid that she's going to get in trouble for sneaking into New Pretty Town, and it's going to delay and or cancel her pretty surgery, and then they can't hang out. So it's not that he's like mad at her or unhappy to see her. He's more just confused. And in fact, he's actually the one who helps her escape back to Uglyville. He's the one who gives her the idea of what to do with the bungee jackets. The scene in the movie is horrific because he's basically just like, I don't care about you until you become a pretty. I don't think he says those words exactly, but he might as well have. The dialogue was that overt, that awkward, and nothing like how it is in the book. And it's literally a scene that they essentially copied from the book. Why could you not just rip the dialogue from the book? I do not understand why more book to movie adaptations do not do this. If the dialogue in the book is fine, why do you need to change it? Literally just have the IRL characters say the words that the book characters said. There were a lot of points in this book that were like that. They just made the dialogue worse for no reason. You bought the rights. You're doing more work. You're writing more stuff you don't need to write. And my other big criticism for the movie is just that there are some things that happen in the book that because it's in book form, you can suspend your disbelief a little bit. When you are seeing certain things play out in movie form, it truly occurs to you how ridiculous some of these things are. So we're just going to walk through a little bit of the overarching plot of this movie and the certain points where you have to suspend your disbelief incredibly far. The Pretty Society has really struggled to find this place called the Smoke, and so they send Tally there with a pendant that she can open to let them know when she's gotten to the Smoke so that they can come find her. It's a tracking thing. Okay, here's the problem. This society has incredible technology. We're led to believe that they've essentially solved energy, just like as a concept. They've solved technology as a whole. They've just cracked it, basically. You're telling me they can't find like a primitive society in the woods? Especially because they like fly helicopters and stuff when she gets to the Smoke. Like, you're telling me you can't just look out the window with binoculars and see where the fucking helicopter is? You're telling me they couldn't just fly the hovercrafts around and look down out of the hovercraft and be like, oh, there's the village? To be fair, this is how it happens in the book. Even in the book, you have to suspend your disbelief a lot. And then the Pretty Society people show up and they kidnap everybody except for Tally and David. And they tell everybody that Tally was the one who told them where it was. And so David's obviously very mad at her. But because they are the only two who have escaped, and because David has never even really been to the whole Pretty Society place, she convinces him to take her along on the rescue mission. And they end up saving everyone now. In the book, Scott Westerfeld made many mistakes, but one of the things that he did that made a lot of sense was he said that not a lot of the pretties really ever riot against the society, and so security is pretty lax. This explains why it is so easy for Tally and David to break into this facility, find everybody, and break them out, because they basically don't have a lot of security procedures in place, if I remember correctly. So once they get inside the building, there isn't really even that much sneaking around that they need to do. And that makes sense. In the movie, they have like all these guards around in these super fancy suits. And these two literal actual children, these two 16-year-olds, just run behind a lot of these guards on metal staircases, I might add, and nobody hears or sees them. It's just genuinely unbelievable. Like, in the book, it's a little bit like, wow, that was a really easy break in and break out. But at least he gives you some kind of plausible deniability reason as to why it was so very simple to do, as opposed to the movie, where because they wanted to make it some kind of intense action sequence, they have all of these like superhuman special circumstances people standing around in these very fancy suits that presumably have sensors and shit. It just, oh my god, it just didn't make sense. It just didn't make sense. The movie didn't make any sense. None of this stuff would have been possible, and it just made it that much worse a watch. So, to go back to my main point, I do feel like from a messaging perspective, the movie does a significantly better job of delivering commentary about our value on appearance in our society and our definition of what's considered conventionally attractive, and actually proposes a genuine reason as to why everybody getting surgery to become super attractive might be a bad thing, mainly being there really isn't the technology to do that in a way that actually looks natural. Therefore, also showing how conditioning can lead us to believe that certain things are attractive, but that conditioning has to be there. And without that conditioning, everybody would find their own things attractive in other people. The only thing that's really been scientifically proven about attraction is that everybody finds different things attractive in different people. That's like the only consensus there is. The only consensus is that there's no consensus. However, the writing itself, significantly worse. The dialogue, significantly worse. And it was already not that great in the book, truthfully. And they just made it so much harder to believe that any of it actually would have gone down. That's all for me today. Oh, when I lean back like this sunset lamp lights my face in a nice way. And that's all for me today, you guys. I didn't love the movie, is what I'm getting at. Have you seen the movie? Have you read the book? Do you remember reading the book as a kid? What are your thoughts, feelings, emotions? I want to hear. Let me know. And as always, if you enjoyed watching the video, make sure you like and subscribe for more truly incoherent rants from me about media. Train of thought? Never heard of her. More like a spider web of thought around here with the amount we cut all around. Anyway, love you guys, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!